You have to have a very good basic control with your dog, some good basic obedience, because draft work is done off leash. So, and they're in a group of dogs many times, so they really have to have, I couldn't stress enough, having proper equipment, but you also have to have a good obedience background to do draft work. And the back is the only command other than the others you would already have. You would probably have some kind of slow or easy command, or you want to teach some turn commands for draft. Some people use the G and haw from sled dogs. He knows left and right, and it comes in handy even for other things when we do water rescue as well. And if he's looking for an article in the water and he's not looking in the right place, I can say go left and he'll turn and find his article. So a lot of the commands carry over from obedience or rally or draft or water, whatever activities you like to do. A lot of the commands do carry over. But they need basic control. Obviously, they're in an apparatus. If they were to go off and run and chase a squirrel through the woods, they're going to hit a tree, it's going to tangle them up, they're going to get hurt. So for their own safety, they really, really need to have basic control before you're going to take them off leash in their cart. The first exercise in a draft test is basic control. Not in the cart, just on a leash, and you go in a ring like this, and it's a heel, a recall, a 1 minute down in a group. During the heel, they have to do a left turn, right turn, about, turn fast and slow. And it's just to show, even if the dog has an obedience title, they may have gotten it 5 years ago and haven't done anything since. So it's for the judge to know that dog is fairly in control that day before you're going to hook them up to a cart. And if there's some dogs that are obviously very out of control for basic control, a judge may not feel comfortable letting them hook that dog up to a cart and would let them finish, but they might ask them to do it on leash. And that's the reason they have to have the basic control down. It's for the dog's safety when you hook them up. They aren't doing this by choice. We are asking them to do this for us. So we want to do everything possible to keep them safe and comfortable. And that's why you have to have their proper fitting equipment and have them under the voice control. So that's a very, very important part. Now, I'll briefly show you how we start them with draft work. The first thing you have to do is get them used to having the harness on. As you saw when he was laying here with the harness without the traces attached before, he's very comfortable with it. You put it on them every day when you take them for a walk, or let them hang around the house with it on. Make it an enjoyable experience to just hang around and have their harness on. Get them used to being very comfortable with the harness. The next step you do you want to show the drag, Brenda? The next step you would do when they're used to having the harness on is introduce some kind of pull. So they learn that they have to lean into that collar piece and learn how to use the harness properly. This is just my favorite piece of equipment, the empty milk jug. You can use for so many different things. There's nothing in it today, but you can put sand or water in it, and of course you can put a little sand, a little more sand, a little more sand to make it just a little bit heavier each time you use it and get the dog used to pulling different amounts of weight. So you can put that behind the dog and they can drag it around, and then as they get used to it, add some weight. It also helps to get them used to a little bit of noise behind them that way. Another thing you can do is, if you have the traces on, want to put a traces on and show that? Yeah. When you're ready to go something a little heavier. Some people actually use an old tire and drag a tire around. But this piece of wood just has a couple of screw eyes in it, and you put the traces on and hook it to a piece of wood like this and have them drag it around. And it teaches them how to use the harness to feel the pull, and it also teaches them to have a little bit of a sound behind them. So the first thing is getting them used to the harness, used to wearing it, and used to feeling the pull behind them before you even introduce the cart. She's still got the jug hooked up too.
Stop! I got to
I want to do all that.
Come on over here.
Very good.
Good girl.
You know, they hear a little noise, they feel the little weight. That's just adding that weight to the back is making the harness fit them the way it would when they start to pull. The straps are getting pulled closer to her body. She's feeling the pull when she leans into the neck piece. So it's just teaching them how the harness will feel when there's something behind them. Then when you want to introduce the cart, sometimes you can just kind of take the cart and walk it around. Would you stay, please? Stay. When you've got your dog out like this, you've got their harness on, you might want to just walk the cart around them a little bit, let them get used to the noises, maybe even have someone else do it for you. Take them a walk around the yard and just move it, let them get used to the sights and sounds of it. The next thing you want to get them used to is the feel of a shaft against their side. I didn't bring a separate shaft.
Oh,
but
I
you
have
can
it.
use,
Right, I got it right
you've got
here.
that one, yeah. You can start with a stick, you can start with a 2x4, anything you've got. I've used a hockey stick before too. Go in the garage, what can I grab? The kid's hockey stick. Use a hockey stick. Anything that's straight and fairly has some good length to it, and you're going to hold it against one side of the dog, and you're walking the dog along, and you're just kind of bumping this straight, hard thing up against the side of the dog. And then you go to their other side, and you bump the stick up against their other side, and let them get used to the feel of it. They have to learn that there's something there, and they can't just turn their body around like they very naturally will normally do. They have to feel that that stick on their side is going to restrict their movement a little bit. But by just holding the stick, if it bothers them, you can just take it away. If you put them right in the shafts right away, some people will just put them in the cart and hook them up. If your dog freaks out from that situation, which most times it will, you've gone back so many steps before you're ever going to get that dog to go near those shafts again. You really have to take it slow. I can't emphasize that enough, to really take it slow. Some dogs in 2 hours, they're pulling the cart and they could care less. Other dogs in 3 months, they're just starting to pull a cart. It depends on the dog's personality, how they're going to take to it, and how often you practice it. But when you get them used to having the shaft on one side, then you want to put a shaft on each side so they can feel a little restriction on each side. And that's what she's done here with just the PVC pipe.
It's a little bit more flexible, so if the dog decides to turn
Right,
around,
then
it opens up. And
just the shaft.
Right, nobody gets
So
hurt.
she's getting a little bit of drag. You could even add a little bit of weight to the end of that. But she's feeling the shafts on either side of her, and if she freaks out, it's not a big deal to be able to just stop and get rid of that, or it's not going to hurt her. There's not a lot of weight to it. Once they're used to something on their side a little bit, then you're going to put them, you want to put her in the shafts? You put them between the shafts of the cart, but don't hook them up to the cart. Put them in between the shafts. It's easier if you've got someone else with you. You can do it alone, but if you've got someone else with you, have them stand on the other side. You're on this side, they're on that side, and they can pull the cart along. They actually pull it, or you can pull it, and you walk the dog. They've got the shafts on either side of them. Yeah, just show her like that without being hooked up, Brenda. They've got the shafts on either side of them, and the cart is following them, but they're not hooked up. So if any noise the cart makes, or just the feeling of being in between the shafts spooks them at all, they can run right out and not get hurt. And that's okay if they run right out. That's all right. You praise them, that's good, you're okay. You come back and try it again, and you can let them, and you're just holding it like this. And one person can kind of lead the dog around, and the other person would just kind of take the cart and do this a little bit. Bump them a little bit on each side. Let them feel those shafts and bump them back and forth, and just get them used to the feel of those shafts on them. And that's all you have to do. Just kind of bump them, get them used to it. When you've done this a few times and you really feel the dog could care less that those shafts are there and has been pulling some weight around, that's when you can hook them up. But please don't hook them up until you know they're really comfortable in the shafts, because you're going to set the dog way back if they freak out and they can't get out of that cart. And I can't tell you how many clinics I've been to, like an all-day clinic where we actually get the dogs hooked up later, or some dogs get hooked up later, and people whose dogs aren't ready always hook their dog up, and the dog freaks out and the equipment breaks, and yeah, there's always one. But just, it's going to help you much more if you just take your time doing it. Have a little bit of patience. Like I said, some dogs in a day, they'll be pulling. Other dogs, it just takes a little longer with their personality.